So it's funny. We're just talking. Benoit Langevin is in studio. He's an Ensemble Montreal city councillor in Pierrefonds. He's also their critic for homelessness. This is on a story. I saw this today, front page of the Gazette. And this is, again, we were just chatting a minute ago. This idea where Montreal, we talk so much about the need for housing, right? Affordable, social, whatever. And then find out that the city owns land, owns housing, and basically does nothing with it. And that's the story of the one you were talking about, or at least talking about this morning, which is in Verdun on Gordon Avenue. Explain, first of all, what that situation is all about and why this is just so terrible.
Well, it's one of the places where we have vacant buildings on the island of Montreal. We have about 80 buildings, maybe 20% are recuperatable, and with proper investment could be used as a long-term strategy to actually increase the answer that is given to the housing crisis and the homelessness crisis that we're going through on the island of Montreal. But for specifically in Verdun, what is absolutely unacceptable is that because of bureaucracy, we've kept a building owned by the city heated. Plus, we even have to pay for public security to supervise that no one squats in the building, when actually it was used for 6 months, and then a whole year went by and still nothing is being done with this building when it could have been used last winter, for example. Not that homelessness is only a winter thing, it's a year-long thing, but right now every shelters across the city, there's about 45, are refusing 20 to 30 people. Yeah. And we had a place for a whole year just being there, that we're paying tax dollars to heat, but being unused in this context, which is absolutely unacceptable.
It's insane when you think about it. And thank you for saying, it's heated in the winter. I mean, that's important, obviously, for people. Find out that a building that was being heated was just sitting empty and not being used by people who could have used it. What's Projet's answer to this as to why this happened?
Well, also to say that 30 meters away, not even like at an eye distance, there's an encampment across the street. Wow. I mean, on the bike path that is given on the Gordon building. I mean, this person is probably waiting to go back to this site. And what is the administration answering to what the opposition has been saying? I've been on this file for 8 years now, so I can clearly see the whole bilan of what they've been doing and what investment they have done. And when you look at the PDE, it's ludicrous the amount of money they put in our own buildings to actually use it as a transitional facility. Even if it was a recommendation in 2017 from our youth council to use these facilities in order to face this housing crisis and making sure that we don't have as many encampments that we have nowadays.
When I said, when we first started chatting, I said, I remember a year or so ago when we first brought up this idea where someone woke up and said, wait a sec, the city owns all these buildings. They're sitting empty. Some can be, rehabilitated. Some of the land can be built on, and none of it happened. So you're telling me now there's roughly 80 buildings like this, right? Last count, and nothing again being done. And when I ask you for what the city's excuse is, I don't know that there is an excuse for this. Is it about money?
Every single time the answer I get in chambers when I ask the question, because every month for the past 8 years I've been asking questions about homelessness, and what I get as an answer is that, you want to put people in mold? You want to put people in these buildings that are unusable or requires investments from other levels of government? Wait a second. I mean, but Montreal has a $7.3 billion budget. It invests $9.8 million in homelessness. And every single year, Ensemble Montreal has been asking them to double that funding and to make sure that our infrastructure would be invested in that vein, in that orientation as a long-term strategy to make sure that we have an answer other than just pushing people around from one park to another, which we have been doing with Projet Montréal for the past 6 years, has to have an answer.
Every time homelessness comes up, though, Benoit, you know what the city's answer is, or the mayor's answer is, the provincial government, they're not giving us the money. We would do it if they were. Does that come into play here?
Absolutely. We've never said that the provincial government doesn't have its role to play, but let's be honest here. There's 45 sites for service d'hébergement d'urgence. There's 2,126 places that are available across the island of Montreal, spread it through the 19 boroughs. Mm-hmm. There is an answer from the Quebec government. What we're asking the city is to actually make their own plan and have some to plan what is coming for next year because
Right.
we know there's an increase and we have all the indicator to know what is going to lack as infrastructure next winter. But it seems that every year we're in the same scenario. Last minute, we're asking nonprofit to change their entire mission to actually focus on opening a shelter without the qualification, without the employees in like 30 days, which is unsensible because we know that there's an increase. Why aren't we planning this ahead to make sure that the end result is not death, is not pushing people away from one park to another, cohabitation issues like we've been dealing for almost 4 years severely here in the village or in Chinatown. I mean, the city has to take on its role, its responsibility, and its social development. Social development is a government of proximity has to plan its territory in order to ask Quebec what its priorities and where do they want them to invest. They have to make a plan first and foremost with the nonprofits. We know what works. We know what the needs are. Why aren't we planning and requesting Quebec a clear plan instead of arriving every winter, make that press conference in November and just acting like, oh my God, Quebec is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not investing sufficiently. Wait a second. Did you ask Quebec in June for what you would need in January? No. Oh, we have a plan, but it's a shared plan. So who's responsible? Who's actually taking on the leadership? And it's exactly what the report at the OCPM that was published today is saying. There's leadership that is required in this file because it's firsthand. It's a proximity issue. So the proximity government has to address it first.
This is obviously going to become, I mean, we're going to an election in November, right? At the beginning of the month. This is obviously going to be an issue. Homelessness has been an issue now for a while. So I can't imagine much is going to change between, July and November. This will be a big part of what you're trying to defeat Projet Montreal on, is it not?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, their record is just speaking for itself every time you get outside. And I chose Soraya as a leader, as a newcomer in Ensemble Montreal, because I know that she has the relation in Montreal, in Quebec and in Canada as somebody who's an experienced leader, an experienced politician, because I know this file needs to go through all party lines and it has to go through every levels of government in order to have a long-term strategy when it comes to infrastructure investments and also a short-term answer to the issue, either for cohabitation, either for short-term answers in some areas that is required in the weights of a long-term strategy with more permanent infrastructure.
I don't know that it's a fair question to ask, but I mean, when people look at this story and they realize here's an empty building that could have been used for people who are, homeless right now, yet sat empty for a year for no apparent reason, is part of what you're proposing or part of what's going to be proposed getting private developers involved in something like this and saying, look, you're not building a 200-unit condo, but this is a building that can be, basically saved, if you will. It can be retrofitted, and we can get people to live in here. Is there money, or is there a thought of asking developers to get involved?
Developers have been mingling with the Mouvement pour mettre fin à l'itinérance, which is a regroupment of nonprofit that offers these types of facilities.
Okay.
I'll take an example like Mission Bon Accueil, Oldbury Mission. They're all members, and the larger, I want to say, out-of-market promoters dedicated to homelessness are sitting around a table, but also having people like Broccolini, Mondev, which are all concerned about the situation that is going through the entire island of Montreal. And they're all actually planning right now. They're actually working together. But it requires a leadership from the city in order to arrive and to give permit faster, to not charge for tariffs when there's a permit that is required for these types of resources, not having to pay for a truck that is parked in the street, because right now, l'occupation du territoire has high fees when somebody's building a building. But if it's an out of market project, that needs to be biffed. We shouldn't be charging nonprofit that will reduce our cost of living.
You're talking about the red tape and the bureaucracy, which is always something that comes up as to why do we do this? We want to make things easier, not harder. So why aren't we fixing that? So there's a lot to do here. We're out of time. I thank you for coming in. I appreciate meeting you, and I wish you good luck. This is a good issue, and let's hope that we can make some progress on this, because as you said off the top, it's not normal. It doesn't make sense for this to be going on. Benoit, merci. Thank you.
My pleasure, Aaron.
Benoit Langevin from Ensemble Montreal. Let's get